Okay, can you all see my screen and hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What we will do today is that we will finish the lesson cardiovascular system or transport in mammals, because tomorrow we will start a new lesson. Okay. We already started this lesson and we stopped here exactly at objective 11, which is explain the effect of physical activity on the heart rate. Now I'm going to summarize that because this part is very important, this objective. Excuse me, mute your sounds. Now we are talking about physical. Okay, I will have to mute all of you because there is so much sound. Okay, if you have a question, raise your hand and I will unmute you. Fine, so we will talk about the effect of physical activity on the heart rate. Physical activity means exercise. What happens when you exercise? Now, of course, you all realize that when you exercise, what happens? There's an increase in the heart rate. And I'm going to exploit the chance and also talk about what is the effect of physical activity on the breathing rate. Breathing rate. So HR is the heart rate and the BR is the breathing rate. Of course, when you exercise, there is an increase in both the breathing rate and the heart rate. Now, the question or the objective is asking you why. This is so easy. Can someone unmute themselves or raise their hand and I will unmute you and tell me why when you exercise, you breathe faster and your heart pumps faster? Anyone who wants to give an answer? Abdurrahman? Okay. Yes, Abdurrahman, you want to give me an answer?
Increase the oxygen.
Of course, increase the oxygen, but we know by now that biology loves talking. Increase the oxygen. Okay, my dear, elaborate. This is the only thing you will write, a question out of 4 marks? Yes, Hadiyah. Can you unmute yourselves or do I have to unmute you? If anyone wants to give me an answer, just go ahead. I think I gave you the permission to unmute yourselves. Now tell me, increase in the heart rate. This is so easy. I want you to answer that. This means that your blood, that your heart is going to pump faster. So your heart is going to pump faster. Okay? Pump faster, one by one, very easy. The heart, when it pumps faster, it's going to send blood all over the body faster. This blood, what does it provide? And why does it provide it? We said there's also an increase in breathing rate. Abdurrahman said that this will provide more oxygen. Of course, he is correct. Now, this oxygen, Abdurrahman, it is needed in what? Why, when you are on the treadmill and you are running, you will breathe faster? Yes, Rahiq, tell me. Do I have to unmute you or can you unmute yourselves? I don't know.
We can unmute ourselves.
Okay, then give me the answer. I don't have to unmute each and every one of you. Tell me, why do we need more oxygen when you're exercising?
Water.
Excuse me? Hello?
For respiration.
Okay, someone is trying to be funny, and this someone is very childish. So I'm sorry, I'll have to unmute you again. Fine, so we don't want to waste our time with childish people. When we have exercise or we want to exercise, yes, Selma, I'll give Selma a chance. Selma is a mature, nice girl. Yes, Selma. Yes, my dear Selma, why do we increase in the breathing rate and the heart rate when we're exercising?
For aerobic respiration, because we need more energy when we're exercising.
Very good. Thank you so much. Okay, stay with me. We will increase the breathing rate. This means we will breathe faster, and this is going to provide more oxygen. And just like you said, perfect. This oxygen is going to be used in aerobic respiration. I'll write the keywords, okay? So the aerobic respiration will give you a mark, and the aerobic respiration will give you energy. Very good. Now, also, when we breathe faster, we provide our body with oxygen and we remove a waste product gas. What is it, Selma? which gas do we exhale? Yes, continue, my dear. Tell me, Selma. Yes, Rahik, Habibti, tell me, when we breathe faster, we take in oxygen and we remove which gas? Which gas goes out? Okay, I'll give you another chance. Yes, now you can unmute yourselves. Now, please
Carbon
grow.
dioxide.
Carbon dioxide.
Thank you, my dear. Yes, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a waste product and it also has to be removed. Now, there is an important point that you need to know, that the brain detects an increase in the level of carbon dioxide, and the brain will respond by increase in the breathing rate because the carbon dioxide is a waste product. I will have to stop here and talk a little bit about the disadvantages of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, if it is left in the blood, it will dissolve in the water in the blood and it will produce an acid. If you want to know the name of the acid, carbon dioxide reacts with water in the blood to produce an acid known as the carbonic acid. You don't have to know the name of the acid, but I'm telling you that the carbon dioxide is very dangerous because if it remains in your blood and it dissolves in the water in your blood, it will produce an acid. This acid is very dangerous to your enzymes. What does it do to your enzymes?
It changes the pH.
Natures them.
Yes, of course, it denatures the enzymes in your body because you know that your enzymes are very sensitive to temperature and they're sensitive to pH. If the temperature changes so much or the pH changes so much, these enzymes will be denatured. So that's why CO2 has to be removed, because if it stays in the blood, it causes or it produces an acid. And this acid can denature enzymes. Very good. That's why I tell you to elaborate. It's not enough to say we breathe faster because we need more oxygen. Full stop. It's not enough in biology. Oxygen is needed in aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration provides energy. Also, we breathe faster. Also, we breathe faster to remove excess carbon dioxide because carbon dioxide is a waste product. It is a toxic gas. If it remains in the blood, carbon dioxide will react with the water in the blood to give me an acid. You don't have to know the name of the acid, but this acid will lower the pH of the blood. And this is very dangerous because it will denature our enzymes. And without our enzymes, we cannot function. Something else. While we are exercising, yes, Nariman, my dear, you have a question?
No.
Okay. Now, also, while we are exercising, we are still in the objective of the physical activity and how does it affect our heart rate and the breathing rate? Also, when we are exercising in the gym, what happens to our heart rate? We have a faster heart rate. In other words, the heart will beat faster. Now, the heart carries blood. This means that the blood will be pumped faster. This blood will provide what? Glucose. And this glucose is going to be needed for the muscle contraction. When you come to solve paper 4, you will see that these are the keywords that have to be in the answer. The heart rate will increase. This is one mark. To provide faster blood, this is another mark. For glucose, the glucose is needed in muscle contraction because the glucose is also a raw material in respiration, whether aerobic or anaerobic. The glucose is going to allow the muscles to contract because I want to contract my muscles because I want to exercise. Also, the circulation of the blood, the fast circulation of the blood provides glucose and it also removes waste products. What are the waste products removed by the blood? Selma, you want to tell me? Your hand is raised.
Miss CO2 lactic acid كل ده
Exactly, bravo. Perfect. Also, the blood carries away the carbon dioxide. It takes this carbon dioxide to the lungs. And at the lungs, the carbon dioxide will be exhaled. Okay? So before you ask me, because some students get confused, they tell me, the carbon dioxide, who will remove it? The blood or the lungs? Both. The blood carries the carbon dioxide from the muscles to the lungs, and then at the lungs, it will be exhaled out into the air. So the blood and the lungs, they work together. The blood removes excess carbon dioxide. It removes lactic acid, and we will talk about lactic acid in a minute, and it also removes excess heat. Don't forget these points because we want to score the full mark. Going back to the objective of what is the effect of physical activity on the heart, this is a clear objective in the supplement, which is objective number 11. It is a long objective, can be an essay question out of 4 marks. We will pump the heart faster, increase in heart rate, increase in breathing rate. It's not enough to write this. We will have an increase in the heart rate because the blood will carry more glucose and oxygen. And glucose and oxygen are needed for aerobic respiration to provide energy. And the glucose is needed for muscle contraction and aerobic respiration. So this mentioned, this is half the grade. Also, I will remove waste products. I will remove carbon dioxide because it's very toxic. I explained why. Because carbon dioxide, when it dissolves in the water and the blood, it produces an acid. You don't have to know the name of the acid, but if you want to know, it is called the carbonic acid. And this carbonic acid, like any acid, is going to lower the pH of the blood. And this is dangerous because it can denature the enzymes in the body. Okay? Also, the blood carries excess heat. Now, I'm going to stop here because all this heat will be carried to the surface of the skin, and this heat will radiate out from the surface of the skin. And I'm going to leave this for now because we will talk about heat loss and sweating in the lesson homeostasis. And the blood will also carry lactic acid. Lactic acid is a waste product. Now, before you ask me what is lactic acid, some of you know what is lactic acid because they took it last year. Some of you don't. Now, what is lactic acid? I will tell you what is lactic acid. In our body, we undergo 2 types of respiration. We can respire either in the presence of oxygen or in the absence of oxygen. If we respire in the presence of oxygen, this is called aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration, again, before you are confused, this is respiration in the presence of oxygen. What happens is that the glucose will react with oxygen to give me the waste product, carbon dioxide, and water, and energy. I hope you know this reaction by now. And all living organisms respire. Sometimes your body will respire with no oxygen. And this is not very common. This is rare, but it happens. When does it happen? When will your muscle cells respire without oxygen? When you are exercising vigorously, in vigorous or during vigorous exercise, or in a situation where there is little oxygen. For example, God forbid, in a fire or you're being suffocated, there is a decrease in the supply of oxygen for any reason. So you will have to continue respiring, but respiration here will happen without oxygen. This type of respiration is called anaerobic respiration. Now, what is the equation for anaerobic respiration? We will take it in the lesson respiration, and we will take it now. Anaerobic respiration, from the name, this is respiration without what? Oxygen. There is no oxygen in the body. There's a decrease in the oxygen supply, but I will still need to respire. What happens is that the glucose will be broken down immediately. See, I did not write glucose plus oxygen. I wrote glucose immediately followed by the arrow sign because the glucose will be broken down without oxygen to give me a product known as lactic acid. Lactic acid is a waste product. And again, it's an acid. It's dangerous. Can you guess why this acid is a dangerous product? For the same reason.
Provide an acidic medium in the blood.
Very good. Any acid is very dangerous. Your blood is slightly alkaline, by the way. A healthy blood has a slightly alkaline pH. Your blood is around 7.3 to 7.4 pH. When your blood is acidic, this is very dangerous. So the lactic acid is acidic. It will lower the blood pH. Okay, and this is dangerous because it can denature our enzymes. Now, any denaturing of the enzymes, it's dangerous. But when it happens in the heart, it is extra dangerous because the heart will immediately suffer from cardiac arrest or, God forbid, a heart attack. Okay, So this is a nice big objective that is actually very easy to answer. What is the physical activity of the heart? A question out of 4 marks, 5 marks, it's easy, it's not hard, because we can elaborate and say a lot of things. When we exercise, there's an increase in heart rate and there is an increase in the breathing rate. Now, why? I will breathe faster because I need more oxygen. And I will elaborate because I need to remove the excess CO2, and I will elaborate. My heart will pump faster because I need more glucose, and I will elaborate. Elaborate means I will explain this glucose is needed in what. My heart will pump faster because I need to remove excess heat, because heat is dangerous. My body temperature has to remain 37. Above that, my enzymes will be denatured. I have to increase my heart rate because I have to remove excess lactic acid, and I can elaborate and say a lot of things. Let's continue my table so that we fully answer this objective. I will breathe faster. I need more oxygen. This oxygen is needed in aerobic respiration because, of course, I'm exercising and I need energy. I need to remove the CO2 because the CO2 is a waste product, because the CO2, it will make the blood acidic. And this is very dangerous because this can denature my what? My enzymes. See, it's very easy when you understand it and it's nice and logic. So I have to remove the CO2. Also, my heart rate will increase because I want to provide glucose to my muscles because this is needed for muscle contraction. Again, the glucose is needed in respiration, whether aerobic or anaerobic, because the glucose will be broken down to give me energy. See how nice and easy it is? And also I need to increase my heart rate to remove the excess heat. The heat is generated from the core, from my body, from my inside. I will take this as excess heat, I'll go to the surface of the skin, and this heat will radiate out of the skin, and my sweat glands will become active, so I sweat, and when the water evaporates, my body will cool down, etc., so that my body temperature does not exceed above 37 degrees. Also, the heart rate will increase to remove the excess lactic acid. This lactic acid is a waste product. It's a waste product from anaerobic respiration. Glucose is broken down without oxygen to give me lactic acid. Lactic acid is also an acid that will make the blood acidic and will denature the enzymes, so I have to remove it. How and where is it removed? We will take it in the next lesson, respiration. So I hope this objective now, it's clear. Okay? Where am I? I am here. So objective 11, this is a very common one. I hope it's clear. Okay? Now, this here is heart rate or the transport in animals lesson paper 6. Paper 6, there are a lot of questions about the transport in animals. First, you have to know how to measure the heart rate. I will show you pictures how to measure the heart rate, but we need to know what is heart rate in the first place. Heart rate is a measurement in which we will count the number of heartbeats per minute. Beats per minute. BPM. Beats per minute, and it is in a minute. The heart beats per minute, not per second. In this case, it is not per second. Now, for example, they will give you or they will want you to investigate the effect of a particular exercise or different forms of exercise on heart rate. So again, the investigation, we want to investigate how different types of exercise affect the heart rate. The moment we read an investigation, we have to identify the independent variable and the dependent variables. In this investigation, what is the independent variable? What will we change? Who will give me an answer?
Exercise.
Very good. The type of exercise. We will give examples. For example, running, for example, jumping, carrying weights, whatever. This is the independent variable, the different exercises. Now, what is my dependent variable? What are my results? What will I measure at the end of the exercise?
Heart rate.
Heart rate.
Very good. The heart rate, excellent. In beats per minute. Now pay attention how this happens. Number one, we have to measure the heart rate before the exercise. And this is called the resting heart rate. I'm going to measure the exercise of that person at rest. And then number two, he will carry out the exercise. He will jump, he will swim, he will carry weights, whatever. Step three, I will have to measure the heart rate again immediately after the exercise. So I will measure the heart rate twice. The resting heart rate before the exercise, and then he will exercise. And then I will measure the heart rate again immediately after the exercise, okay? I will measure the heart rate. And then what do I do? Step number four, I will measure the difference in heart rate, or better still, the percentage change in heart rate. Who will tell me how do I calculate the percentage change in heart rate?
Final minus the initial heart rate over initial times 100.
Excellent. The final heart rate minus starting heart rate over the starting heart rate times 100. Very good. Now, what are the safety precautions that are taken when any investigation involves exercise? Will I tell the examiner I will wear gloves? I will use a water bath like we always used to do? What are the safety precautions here? Think about it. I will tell you.
Resting.
Yes,
Not a dangerous exercise.
Maybe wear a helmet.
Age
wearing
appropriate
a helmet.
exercises.
Yes, you are all correct. Now, the safety precautions here, I am using a human subject. I am using a human subject. So I have to be careful. I have to care about my human. So what
Does
are
knee pad
the,
work?
what did you say, my dear?
Knee pad.
Yes, wearing a knee pad, wearing a helmet. I have to make sure that the exercise is not very vigorous. It's written right here. Safety precautions taken in tests involving heart rate. I'm not going to tell him I'm going to wear gloves, I will wear a lab coat. No, I'm not in a lab. I'm outside in the play area. So, and I have to take care of my individual or my human subject that I am working on. So I have to allow him to rest before the exercise. And the exercise should not be too aggressive. I have to make sure that he is wearing protective gear, just like you said, helmet, kneecap, whatever. I have to make sure that he is drinking water and he is not suffering from dehydration. Are you with me? Okay, I have to make sure that he does not overheat. I am not putting him in a room that is very, very hot. These investigations are very easy. Just solve them once and you will find that the format doesn't change. So the heart rate, the number of heartbeats per minute. Again, I will say the steps quickly. I will measure the resting heart rate. And then I will allow this patient or this subject to carry out the exercise regardless of what it is. Number three, I'm going to measure the heart rate immediately after the exercise is over. Number four, I'm going to calculate the difference in the heart rate or the percentage difference to get more accurate results. Number five, the safety precautions here are a little bit different. I have to make sure that that person is safe. He is drinking water. He's not too hot. The exercise is not aggressive. I have to make him rest, etc., etc., etc. Now, I have another tricky question for you. What are the constant factors that will be in this investigations?
Same person.
Yes, very good. Perfect. I either use the same person, or if I'm going to use a group of people, they have to be the same age, the same gender, the same health status. I cannot compare the effect of exercise between students in year 11 and students in year 3. This is not fair, okay? Because these are children and these are older. They have to be the same age, the same gender, the same health status, etc., etc. All of them have to be healthy. Good. Now the question is, how do we measure the heart rate in the first place? I'm gonna have to show you pictures here in order to show you
Heart rate
how do we, excuse me?
Heart rate monitor.
Yes, there is a heart rate monitor. What else? Heart rate monitor here when you have electronic devices, you are in a hospital, for example. For example, you are in a clinic and I want to measure the heart rate. I don't have the heart rate monitor that you're talking about. I have to use my hands. So here we will talk about the manual methods We have manual methods and we have electronic methods. The manual methods, just like this one, I think I showed you this in class. I will use my 2 fingers and I'm going to put my 2 fingers, those pointing finger and middle finger, on certain locations in the body because I want to feel the pulse. What is the pulse? The pulse is feeling the pressure inside an artery because the artery is the only blood vessel that has high pressure. I can never feel a pulse in a vein or a capillary. Never. It is impossible. I will only feel the pulse in an artery. Now, we have some arteries that are close to the skin in some parts of the body that I can feel. There is an artery here just below the thumb known as the radial artery, and this is known as the radial pulse. If you don't want to memorize the name, it's okay. But you need to know the pulse is feeling the pressure in an artery, not a vein, not a capillary, in an artery, okay? This is the manual method. I will use my fingers because I'm not in a hospital. Either below the thumb, this is called the radial pulse, or here in this part of your neck, just below the angle of the mouth. This is called feeling the carotid pulse here, okay? And if I feel a pulse, then the person is alive because the pulse is the reflection of the heartbeat. Now, I'll go back to this picture. Maybe I'm in a hospital and I have some electronic devices. There is one small electronic device called the digital pulse rate monitor. And the picture is very clear. This is your thumb. And we put this device around your thumb. Okay, I don't know if you've seen someone in the emergency unit. They put this device around the thumb and they give you a reading here. And it also measures the pulse. And this is the traditional stethoscope that you see with every doctor. And this is also a manual method that measures blood pressure and heart rate. Okay? So these are all manual methods, but the digital device is electronic. And this is the stethoscope. This stethoscope, you apply this part in the ear of the doctor, of course, and you apply this part on the chest of the patient, and you hear something. What are you hearing? You're hearing the heart valves closing. Okay? Lub, dub, lub, dub, dub, dub. It's like a very, very dull sound. And that sound here, the doctor is hearing the valves closing. And then he counts the number of beats per minute to figure out the heart rate. Now, this is the electrocardiogram. This is what your friend was talking about. He said, I'm going to use a monitor. Yes, the monitor is called the electrocardiogram. It is an electronic device in which I will put something like this, okay? Those sensors, they're called sensors. They're put on the chest of the patient, and then you will have an image on the screen. And this image is going to look like this. Exactly, it's going to look like this. And you will see this in paper 6 or paper 4, I don't remember. This is what you will see on the screen when you come to use an electrocardiogram to measure the heart rate of the patient. And not only does it measure the heart rate, it measures the heart rate and the systolic pressure and the heartbeat, a lot of things. Now you need to know what every crest means. Every crest means this is a heart contraction. This is one contraction. And the distance between 2 contractions, this is when the heart is resting. Because the heart beats and then it rests. And then it beats and then it rests. Okay? So how many heartbeats do I have here? How many times the heart beated in 1 minute? It is showing you here the number of beats per minute. How many times did the heart beat per minute?
7.
And yes, 7 times. Every curve is a heartbeat. So here, the heart rate is 7 beats per minute. This is how we write it. The units are important. Okay, good. So we mentioned this. We will talk about the oxygen depth in respiration. Let's go back to the other PowerPoint, which is the supplement PowerPoint, to make sure that we're done. Okay. So we talked about the electrocardiogram and the precautions that you have to put in consideration during an investigation involving exercise. This is the electrocardiogram. Every crest is a heartbeat or contraction, and between the heartbeats, the heart is relaxing. Okay, we did talk about arteries and veins in class, and we compared between them. If you have any questions, ask me. This is objective 4. Explain how the structure of the arteries and the veins are related to the pressure. Of course, arteries have very high pressure, and veins have the lowest pressure, even lower than capillaries. That's why arteries have very thick walls and veins have much thinner walls. If I want to draw a cross section of the artery, the best way to study an artery is drawing a cross section of the artery. I will draw 2 circles, one big circle and a smaller central circle. All this is the artery walls that are very thick to withstand high pressure, high resistance, high force, and the lumen is narrow or wide. This lumen, narrow or wide?
Narrow.
Narrow, again, to maintain the pressure, etc., etc. Vein, I will also draw 2 circles, but one big circle, just the same size as the artery, but the inner circle here showing you I have very thin walls and very wide lumen. I stressed on that in class because the vein carries blood at low pressure. Actually, the lowest pressure, even lower than capillaries. This is what I was explaining right now. Now, and also we mentioned this in class. This picture is very important, showing you the capillary bed. What is the capillary bed? I have body cells. They're surrounded by capillaries. The capillaries will provide the body cells with glucose, oxygen, vitamins, minerals, anything important. Body cells will use all these good things in respiration. The body cells release waste products that will be taken back by the capillaries into the venules and then veins. What is the arteriole? It is a small. The arteriole is a small what? It's coming from what? What do I have here?
An artery.
Yes, an arteriole is a
It's a
small
branch
artery.
from the arteries.
Correct. So you have an artery with very high pressure. It branches into thinner arterioles. Of course, the pressure decreases a little bit, but still the pressure is high. And then it will branch to form the capillaries that are 1 cell thick. And then the capillaries will join again to form a small vein. A small vein is called the venule. And then the venules will combine to form larger veins. Now, the pressure difference, we have very high pressure here. Pressure is very high, and it decreases as we move along the capillary bed. So the pressure is high at the arteries, it decreases a little bit at the arterioles, it decreases at the capillaries, and we have the least pressure where? At the veins, because this is a point of confusion. We have, in terms of size, artery followed by vein, followed by capillary. The artery is the biggest, followed by the vein, followed by the capillary. But in terms of pressure, artery has the highest pressure, followed by the capillary, followed by the vein. The vein has the lowest pressure. Lowest pressure. That is why veins are the only blood vessels that have valves. Okay? Now, capillaries, again, we talked about this in class and I showed you that picture, and these are the features of a capillary. This is an objective on its own. They're very thin to faster diffusion, very narrow, so the blood travels slowly. They are porous so that materials can diffuse easily. We did talk about these 4 points. If you have any problem, okay? I added this picture to show you the pores. The pores in the capillary, they help in the diffusion of materials and the exchange of materials between the body cells and the blood. Okay, identify in diagrams and images the main blood cells. I think this is done. Here, the hepatic artery and we also talked about this in class. I know we finished the lesson, but I just want to make sure that we're not missing anything. The artery going to the lungs is called the what? Hepatic?
Pulmonary.
Pulmonary.
To the, what did I say, lungs or liver? The ones going to the lungs,
Lungs.
yes, is the pulmonary artery, correct. The one going to the liver is the hepatic
Hepatic.
artery. You don't
Artery.
need to know the mesenteric artery. The one going to the kidneys is the
Renal artery.
Renal.
renal artery. Now the liver, it has 2 blood vessels going to it. The one coming from the heart is the hepatic artery. The one coming from the small intestine is the hepatic portal vein that carries all the digested food And the blood vessel coming out of the liver is the hepatic vein. Coming out of the kidneys, renal vein. Coming out of the lungs, pulmonary vein. Pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein are the only two exceptions in the body. Pulmonary artery is the only artery carrying deoxygenated blood. Pulmonary vein is the only vein carrying oxygenated blood. I'm repeating things, by the way. We took all that. If anyone has any questions, stop me. Now we will take something new, so we finish. We will take the blood composition. I'm going to jump directly to the blood composition, and I'm going to use a board. The blood is made up of what? The blood is made up of a solid part and a liquid part. The same we took last year with a new piece of information. Now, the solid part of the blood includes the blood cells, which include 3 cells. The 1, red blood cell, you know it very, very well. 2, the white blood cell. And 3, cell parts. It's not a complete cell, it's a cell part, like a small piece of the cell, known as the platelets. Platelets. Now let's stop at the white blood cells. White blood cells are a very big story. They are part of your immune system. We will not study immune system in O level. We study immune system next year. But you should know what your immune system does. What does it do?
Protects.
Very good. Your immune system protects you from infection. If you have a disease, the immune system protects you from this disease. It's a very big system, and it's a very big story, and it's a very complicated system. You will only study that it involves 2 cells. One type of cell called the phagocytes, and another type of cell called the lymphocytes. You need to know the difference in terms of shape and in terms of function. This is all what you need to know for O level. Now, I got your pictures here to show you the phagocyte. This is the phagocyte. I want you to notice what the phagocyte is doing. It is running after this small bacteria. You see this small bacteria? Okay, the phagocyte will swallow the bacteria and kill the bacteria. This is the phagocyte. Okay, do you see it? Now, the characteristics of a phagocyte. What do we do when we come to explain a phagocyte? The phagocyte is irregular in shape. Irregular in shape. It is a large cell. As you can see, it is very large. This is how you draw it, irregular. And it has a lobed nucleus. The nucleus is multi-lobed. And what does it do? It engulfs bacteria. You have to memorize this keyword. It engulfs bacteria. What does engulf bacteria mean? This is what you're seeing. It swallows the bacteria. Engulfs means swallowing. It will swallow the bacteria. Any foreign body that enters your body, it is swallowed or engulfed by the phagocyte. After it will swallow it, it will digest it. Because the phagocytes, they contain digestive enzymes. So these are the keywords that you write when you are asked to talk about the phagocytes. Phagocytes, these are large, irregular cells. Large, irregular, white blood cells, to be specific. They have a lobed nucleus. The nucleus is lobed. What do? They do a process called phagocytosis. Phagocytosis is what you're seeing on the screen. It is running after the foreign body and engulfing this foreign body. Engulfing means swallowing. It will swallow. And after it will engulf it or swallow it, it will release digestive enzymes that will digest the bacteria or the foreign body. Look how many keywords. 1, 2, 3. That's why this question is out of 3 marks. And there can be a 4th mark for describing the shape of the phagocyte. Another picture of the phagocyte. See, it is large. I'm writing the keywords again and again because your problem is that you always miss keywords. It is irregular. It has a lobed nucleus. This is describing the structure. Now, function, what does it do? What's the word?
Phagocytosis.
Phagocytosis. Describing phagocytosis, I engulf, I swallow, and then I release digestive enzymes. And we will take it again when we study immunity. See, this is the bacteria. You don't have to know the phagosome. And then it releases digestive enzymes, and I will digest the bacteria. Now, this is the first white blood cell. The second white blood cell is called the lymphocyte. Now, I want to describe the shape of the lymphocyte. This is a lymphocyte. The lymphocyte is smaller than the phagocyte. It is round, and it has a large central nucleus. The nucleus is large, and it occupies most of the cell, just like this one. Okay? Now, what is the function of the lymphocyte? The lymphocyte does not run and does not swallow and does not do any of what the phagocyte does. It releases a protein known as the antibody. Can you see the cell? See? Let me change color. Here, this is my lymphocyte. A lymphocyte is a type of white blood cell that is smaller than the phagocyte. It has a large central nucleus, and it doesn't run, and it doesn't swallow, and it doesn't do phagocytosis. It does something else. It releases those yellow structures that you see here that are called antibodies. It produces antibodies, and these antibodies, they go and attack the bacteria or the virus. These antibodies are specific. In other words, they only attack one type of bacteria or one type of foreign body, regardless of what it is. That's it. This is all what you have to know about the white blood cells. So what are we talking about so we do not lose track? We are talking about the blood composition. The blood is made up of a solid part and a liquid part. The solid part, we should know it in detail by O level. It is made up of the red blood cells. Now, you know this very well. The structure and the function, and biconcave, and contains hemoglobin and carry oxygen. You know this very well. White blood cell, you should know you have two types. Help me, I forgot. What are the two types? Quickly.
Lymphocytes and phagocytes.
Lymphocytes.
Very good. Phagocyte and lymphocyte. Which one is large and irregular with a low nucleus and does phagocytosis?
Phagocyte.
Phagocyte. It's easy to remember because phagocyte will remind you, hopefully, of phagocytosis, engulfing and releasing digestive enzymes. And the lymphocyte, they're smaller, rounder, with a large central nucleus, and they produce one thing. What is it?
Antibody.
Very good. Specific, please use the word specific before antibodies. Specific antibodies that attack specific pathogens. Very good. Now we have the last solid part that we will study called the platelets. What is the function of the platelets?
Clotting.
Blood clotting.
Very good. Blood clotting. This is all what you had to know for the core, that the platelets help in blood clotting. Now, for the supplement, you need to know what is the blood clotting. It's also very nice and very easy. Okay, let's say we will start with an injury. This is your skin, and this is an injury, a small wound. This injury is going to activate two things. It will activate platelets, and it will activate an enzyme known as the thrombin enzyme. What is the name of the enzyme? Say it. Thrombin enzyme. Very good. Now, the platelets and the thrombin enzyme, when they are activated, they carry out a series of chemical reactions. Thank God you don't have to know them. These series of chemical reactions will convert a protein in the blood that is soluble, known as the soluble fibrinogen. And yes, you have to know its name. Soluble what? Fibrinogen. What is it? It is a protein in the blood. So again, we have an injury. This injury is going to activate two things. One, your platelets. Two, an enzyme known as the thrombin enzyme. When these two are activated, they will work together and carry out a series of chemical reactions that will convert a soluble protein in the blood known as the soluble fibrinogen into the insoluble fibrin. I'm sorry, you have to know their names. Now, the insoluble fibrin will create over the injury a mesh, something like a trap that will attract more platelets and more blood cells to form what we call a blood scab or a blood clot. Now, the best way to understand that is to look at pictures. This is the final result. You have a small injury in your knee, and I think you are all very familiar with that. This injury is going to attract two things. Tell me, so we memorize things together. We have a small injury. This injury will attract two things. Can someone will activate two things? What are they?
Platelets and
Huh? The enzyme. What's the name of the enzyme?
thrombin.
Thrombin. Very good. Thrombin enzyme. Platelets and the thrombin enzyme. These two will work together to carry out a series of chemical reactions. Now, these chemical reactions will change the soluble fibrinogen protein into the insoluble what? Fibrin. You have to know the names. They have to be in the answer. This insoluble fibrin will create a mesh. A mesh is something that looks like a trap. I'll give you a very nice picture here. This is the mesh. Okay, see the mesh, it looks like a trap. It is trapping red blood cells. It is trapping white blood cells. It is trapping more platelets. And when they are trapped, they will form a what? A blood clot over the injury that looks like this. Now, this blood clot is important. You should not scratch it away because this blood clot is protecting you. It provides protection. It prevents loss of blood from the injury, no loss of blood. It protects any bacteria to enter your injury, so it also prevents contamination. So that's why your mother keeps on telling you, do not remove it, do not remove it. It will go away on its own. And that is true. It will heal on its own. Just give it a few days and all this will go and this knee will look exactly like this knee. Okay? We are talking here about minor injuries. Of course, God forbid, if you have a big injury, you have to go to the hospital and it has to be stitched. Now, this part is new to you. This is supplement. Let's look at it again because it's important. Now, the supplement objective here says what? Describe the process of clotting as the conversion of what? Fibrinogen to fibrin to form a what? A mesh. So when I stress on a particular word, I am doing that because this is the keyword. It has to be in the answer whether you like it or you don't, okay? The objective clearly says the keywords fibrinogen, fibrin, mesh. Those keywords have to be there, at least 3 marks, and of course with elaboration. So, blood clotting, 1, you will write it like this in this order. There is an injury. It will cause a blood vessel wall to break. This is not important. You have to mention that we start with an injury. Platelets are activated. The thrombin enzyme is activated. These two are activated. They will start a series of chemical reactions that will do what? That will convert soluble fibrinogen. See, it is in red because some students were asking me, how do I know the keyword? The keyword is always in bold, either in black or red. So when the platelets and the thrombin enzyme are activated, soluble fibrinogen protein will be converted to insoluble fibrin. This insoluble fibrin will form a mesh or a net around the wound that will trap more platelets and more red blood cells, and any cell passing will be trapped to produce a blood clot or a scab. Okay? Now, healing will start. That's why you should not remove the scab. How does the healing start? Tell me. When I want to make genetically identical cells to replace cells that have been damaged.
Mitosis.
Excellent. I have to mention that healing will start by mitosis to create genetically identical skin cells to replace those cells that have been damaged during the injury. And of course, to prevent infection, I have white blood cells at the site of the wound so that you are not infected. Okay? Phagocytes will be present to kill any bacteria and foreign particles. This new skin cells will divide by mitosis till the wound heals. And this clot is very important. That's why you should not remove it because it prevents bleeding and it prevents contamination and it is there to help in healing. So this is a full answer with all the keywords. This is a new part. This is supplement. Very easy. Any questions? Blood clotting. You have injury. See, number 1, injury. Number 2, activated platelets, activated enzymes, the thrombin enzyme. This enzyme and the platelets will convert soluble fibrinogen into insoluble fibrin. Fibrinogen and fibrin, these are types of blood proteins. They will create a mesh, and this mesh will attract or trap red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets, and then they form a blood clot. It will heal by mitosis, and it will take time until you are just fine. This is the mesh. Easy? Did you all understand this objective? This is an important one. Any questions? Hello?
No, thank you, doctor.
Wait, I'm not finished. Okay, we did finish the lesson, but I will just go over the PowerPoint. Just stay with me 5 minutes, promise, and then I'll let you go. This lesson, we talked about today the paper 6, because paper 6 is important and the investigative work. And we talked about how do we measure the blood pressure. We talked about the phagocyte and the lymphocyte, and we talked about the objective of blood clotting. Now, I have a nice here PowerPoint that you did not see before. Let's see it together quickly, and then I'll let you go. Now, I'm going to jump to the important part, some exam questions that I want to show you. Okay. We'll start from here. Okay. This is a question that I saw important, that's why I have it here. Suggest what will cause valves at 1 and 2 to close during a heartbeat. Now, in general, what will allow a valve to close or open? When you have a valve,
Back flow.
Pressure from
The
behind.
pressure of the blood.
yes, the pressure, but here you have to indicate the location of the pressure. I stressed on this part
Pressure from
so
behind
much.
it makes it open.
Very
front.
good.
And pressure
Always
from the
in front will make it close or open?
close.
Close. Very
Close.
good. This
Prevent
is the
backflow.
answer. So here, this is also supplement. Valves, they open when I have high pressure behind, and they close when I have high pressure in front. This is the answer right there. Okay? Good. Now, there was a picture here and shows you that the pressure was increased in the arteries. Ventricles relax and increase in the volume of the ventricles, high blood pressure in the arteries or the aorta or the pulmonary arteries than in the ventricles. That's why it's going to close. You have to look at the picture. But the idea is the pressure is high. Behind the valve, it will open. And the pressure will close when it is in front of the valve. Okay, now another question, asking you about the importance of the septum. State the name of the part of the heart labeled 3. What is 3? The
Septum.
septum. And give me 2 functions for the septum.
Allows for double circulation and separate the mixing of oxygenated.
Oxygenated and deoxygenated blood.
Excellent. It allows for a double circulation and prevents oxygenated from mixing from the deoxygenated blood. Now another question. Okay, this question was a little bit tricky. Here, it gave you a picture, and it shows how a red blood cell is produced and becomes specialized, and it gave you a picture. Now, use the information in figure 3.1 to describe how red blood cells are produced and explain how they are adapted to their function. Now, this is not a nice question. They gave you a picture. So when they give you a picture or a diagram or a table or a graph, and they tell you use the information and the word describe, then you have to use the information whether you like it or you don't. And you have to do some elaboration from what you already know. So let's do together. Use the information described to know or to describe how red blood cells are produced and explain how they are adapted. So this question is out of 4 marks, adapted or divided into 2 parts. The describe part and the explain part. Now look at the picture and describe. How will you describe what is happening? We started with stem cells and then we ended with red blood cells. Yes, my dear.
We have stem cells
Stem
that
cells go through specialization كده.
Okay.
And
What is happening
have
in the specialization? Look at this.
they start
are
producing
divided.
hemoglobin.
Expression.
reduction of
Very good. Hemoglobin is produced. And what is removed?
The
Nucleus.
nucleus.
Yes, very good. If you notice, we start with stem cells. Any cell in the body starts with stem cell anyway. And this stem cell will go through a process of specialization, just like Selma said. And you don't need to know the process of specialization, but they gave you a picture and it shows you that hemoglobin is being produced and the nucleus is removed, and then all the organelles inside has been removed in order to form a mature red blood cell that is empty. This is the description part. And saying just that will give you the 2 marks. In the description part, you will say that we started with stem cells that went through specialization. If you mention those 2 points, hemoglobin was removed, this is 1 point. The hemoglobin was produced, this is 1 point. Nucleus was removed, this is another point. All the organelles were removed, this is also another point. To form the mature red blood cell, you are finished with the description. Now explain. Explain means using your knowledge. You know a lot of information about stem cells and about red blood cells. What do you know about stem cells?
Unspecialized cell.
Unspecialized, undifferentiated.
All of them.
Very good. That divide by what?
Mitosis.
Mitosis.
Very good. They are unspecialized. They divide by mitosis to give you what?
Genetically identical cells. Stem cells.
Specialized.
Or blastocysts.
Yes. Yes, you are all correct. They divide by mitosis to give me more stem cells, or they differentiate, like we have in this example, to give me other types of cells that have a specific function, just like we see in the diagram. And you also know lots of information about the red blood cell. How is the red blood cell adapted to carry out its function?
Biconcave.
In shape.
They don't have a nucleus to
No
carry more
nucleus.
oxygen.
Exactly. They have no
Have
nucleus.
hemoglobin to
They
bind
have
with the
no
oxygen.
hemoglobin. They are biconcave to increase the surface area. They carry oxygen. This is their function. Definitely, if you write all this, no way will you lose a single mark because you
Miss مش
answered
هو
the question.
hemoglobin.
No, excuse me, my dear. Oh, yes, شطورة صح. I mean, no organelles, شطورة. Yes, of course, it has hemoglobin only. It doesn't have any other organelles. So, let's look at the description and the adaptation. Look, they divided the question into 2 parts, just like we did. They are copying what we did. The description here, we have stem cells. They divide by mitosis. They form genetically. Here is the explanation of the stem cells that we said. And here they describe the nucleus is removed and the organelles are broken down. You can even give an example of one of the organelles. Only one of the stem cells specialize, the other continue to be stem cells. This is the definition of stem cells. Either they divide by mitosis to give more stem cells or specialize. Now here is the adaptation of, I think, red blood cells. Hemoglobin is made. The mitochondrial nucleus is removed, loss of structures, hemoglobin transports oxygen, biconcave shape, it is described to increase the surface area for the diffusion of, it carries oxygen, any valid point. Okay? Now, this question, when you receive this question, you do very well in the explanation part because you study well and then you explain things very well. You explain the stem cell and you write the definition and you write all the information about the stem cell and the red blood cell. And then you still lose a mark and you are depressed because you did not describe. You have to describe. Describe 2 sentences were enough. That the hemoglobin was produced, the nucleus was removed, the organelles were removed, so that I changed from a stem cell to a mature red blood cell. Don't forget the description part, okay? And that's the same case when they give you a table, they give you a graph, you have to use it and to extract information from whatever they give you. Now, another disease, coronary heart disease. I think we took coronary heart disease in nutrition, okay? And it is revised again in this lesson. Coronary heart disease is caused by a blockage in the coronary artery. Describe the effect on the heart of a blockage in the coronary artery. Now, this is easy, 2 marks. When the coronary artery is blocked, what happens?
Reduced blood flow to the heart.
Okay, this is 1 sentence. Then what? What is reduced when the
Cardiac
blood doesn't
arrest.
reach? Cardiac
pumping.
arrest. Okay.
The heart cells become
When the blood does not reach the heart, what exactly is not reaching the heart? The heart wants what?
Oxygen.
Yes,
and
of course,
nutrients.
no oxygen, no glucose. The heart will not be able to respire aerobically. It will respire,
Anaerobically.
very good, anaerobically. This can
Producing
create
lactic acid.
lactic acid.
Lactic
Lactic acid
acid
causes
that
two problems.
the nature of the cell, the nature of the enzymes,
Yes.
acidic medium pH.
Correct. Also, the lactic acid, we'll study lactic acid again in respiration. It causes something called muscle fatigue. Okay, muscle fatigue means that the muscle cannot contract. And if this happens in the heart muscle, this is going to cause cardiac arrest. We will mention that in respiration. Okay, lack of blood means no oxygen, no glucose, no aerobic respiration described. Okay, anaerobic, we said it. The muscle cannot contract, the heart tissue will die. Cardiac arrest, Selma said it, very good. Now, again, this is another exam question. All these are exam questions. They will tell you what is A. We said it 110 times. What is A? What is the blood vessel coming out of the
Hepatic portal
intestines?
vein.
Excellent. It's the hepatic portal vein. They will not ask you about E. But E, they will ask you, is E an artery or a vein?
Artery.
Yes, because it's going towards the organ. Very good. Any other questions? Okay. Amino acids are used to make proteins. State two examples of proteins that are found in the blood.
Hemoglobin.
Hemoglobin. You know a lot of proteins, by the way. Hemoglobin. Another protein.
Thrombin.
Yes, thrombin. Thrombin is an enzyme. Any enzyme is a protein. Fibrin. Now you know the fibrinogen and the fibrin. So you know the fibrinogen. What else? Any enzyme. Any hormone, like the insulin hormone, you know the name of some hormones, of many hormones actually, follicle stimulating, luteinizing, insulin. Okay, all these are proteins. Now the answer is just antibodies are proteins, insulin, glucagon, hemoglobin, any enzyme, all these are proteins. Now, this is showing you that you have to know the shape of the white blood cells, what I was just drawing. Which component produces antibodies?
B.
B, because B is the lymphocyte or the phagocyte?
Lymphocyte.
Good girl, the lymphocyte. Okay. Another question. Now, this question also is important. The diagram shows, it's a 2020 exam. The diagram shows some veins in the human arm and the valves that they contain. If blood is squeezed out of section XY, where should the pressure be placed on a vein to stop the blood flowing into this section again? So we want to prevent the backflow of blood. So we want to apply pressure to prevent this backflow of blood. This pressure, where will it be? A or B or C or D?
A.
C.
No, C, of course. C, the pressure here is high pressure because the high pressure will force the blood to move in this direction and prevent the backflow of blood. It will open the valves and make the blood move in this direction. Not A at all. If there is high pressure in A, the blood will move in the opposite direction. Do you understand now, whoever said A? So the answer is what? C. Let me erase everything I have here so that you can see clearly that the answer is we want high pressure here in this part of the vein so that the high pressure will push the blood forward and prevent its backflow. Another question. This other question here is comparing between the single and the double circulation. Okay, you have here single circulation and the double circulation in mammals. Which letters represent areas of oxygenated blood? Now, who will give me this answer?
B.
Correct. Why did you choose B?
Because S is leaving the gills in the fish, and
Very
Y is
good.
leaving the lungs in the human.
Yes, excellent, perfect answer. Because the gills and the lungs, these are the organs in fish and in mammals that oxygenate the blood. So any blood coming out of the gills is oxygenated, which is S, and any blood coming out of the lungs must be oxygenated. This is the pulmonary vein, which is Y. So the answer is definitely B. Well done. Okay, another question. Which pathway is taken by blood in a fish? Again, this is the new syllabus. Now, why am I getting you these questions? Because I want you to always know the mental image of the fish circulation. Which pathway is taken by blood in a fish?
C. C.
Yes, it's correct. It's C. Okay, in case you forgot, the fish has two chambers only. Both these chambers carry deoxygenated blood. I have the atrium and the ventricles. The atrium receives deoxygenated blood from the body. It will go to the atrium and then pumped to the ventricles, and then it will go to the gills, and from the gills directly to the body. Okay, so it is C, heart. This is the heart, 1, and then gills, 2, and then the body, and then the heart again. So it is C. Excellent. Any more questions? No. Okay. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, because I just want to go over just want to make sure that everything is complete. And then I have nice pictures for you. Promise I'll let you go 5 minutes and I'll let you go. Okay, this is the beginning of the anatomy. Any questions? Tell me. The anatomy of the heart. This is the cardiac muscle, the branching cardiac muscle only found in the heart. Internal heart anatomy, I think it's clear. The valves, atrioventricular and semilunar valves. And how do they open and close? The pressure increases behind, will open. The pressure will increase in front of them, they will close. Okay, I'm not going to waste your time. These are the veins. See, pressure behind, the valve will open. If the blood tries to move in the opposite direction, the valves will close. And we talked about why the atria are thinner than the ventricles. If you have any question, ask me. And why the left ventricle has the thickest walls, not because it is pumping more blood, because it is pumping blood for longer distances, so it needs to pump blood with high force and high pressure. Single circulation. Now, after answering those questions, I assume you understand it well. Double circulation, the pulmonary is the low pressure circulation, systemic high pressure circulation. This was explained in detail and the advantages so that the blood travels quickly, providing oxygen and the glucose and heat and carrying away waste products, lactic acid, carbon dioxide, etc., etc. Any questions? Stop me. Okay, we went over the names of the arteries today. This is done, this is done. These are the valves. See, if you have a defective valve, this is going to happen, God forbid, and we don't want that to happen. Arteries and veins done. Okay. Now, this is a nice picture showing you the pores in the capillaries and how do they allow materials to move out of the pores and helps in gas exchange and in the exchange of materials between the blood and the body cells. Don't forget, arterioles is new word in supplement. Arterioles, branch from the artery, a small branch from the artery. Venule is a small branch from the vein. High pressure in the artery, less pressure in the capillaries, lowest pressure in the vein. Okay, we talked about how to measure the pulse. Look at the pictures. I use fingers. I put my finger on an artery to measure pulse because the artery has a pulse. It has pressure. Here, the blood passing through the artery. See, the artery, if it was not elastic, it will burst. Look at the high pressure. It's pushing the walls of the artery. If the artery was not strong, it will burst. This is the digital pulse monitor. The stethoscope. We hear the heart valves closing. Heart sounds. This is another stethoscope. This is the electrocardiogram. This is a heartbeat, heartbeat, heartbeat. This is when the heart is resting. I measure the heart rate at the beginning, before the exercise, after the exercise, and then the change in heart rate. It's beats per minute, not second. And I have to make sure that the patient is resting and he's drinking enough water. Now, coronary heart disease, we took it in the lesson nutrition. You have to avoid McDonald's and noodles and so much fats and cholesterol because this will happen, God forbid. Of course, this does not happen overnight. It happens with time. This is called plaque. Plaque means fat accumulation. Why? Because you're eating lots of McDonald's, because you're eating lots of noodles, especially those two things. You have to stop them entirely because this will reduce the blood flow and reduce the blood supply to the heart and causes pain. And this pain is called the angina. Okay? This process of accumulation of the fat is called atherosclerosis. Can you say it? What is atherosclerosis? Yes, atherosclerosis. This simply means eating lots of McDonald's and lots of noodles. That will cause the buildup of fat in your arteries. It can happen in any artery in the body, but if it happens in the coronary artery, this is very dangerous. It can lead to coronary thrombosis or cardiac arrest, heart attack, God forbid. Now, this is a healthy artery. You're not eating here McDonald's or noodles. Here you're eating some, so you will have the buildup of fats, and with time this will cause complete blockage. This is atherosclerosis, and the pain is called angina. In case they ask you, these are the branches of the coronary arteries. We have many coronary arteries, thank God, because if one is blocked, the other can work. Okay? This is the cardiac muscle. You have to know its shape. This is the fat buildup or the plaque because of the McDonald's that you're eating. Okay, now what are the factors that will increase the chances of coronary heart disease? You can get a question like this. If you eat too much fat, if you're not eating fruits and vegetables and fiber, if you are a smoker, because the smoking will damage the inner layer of the arteries, if you are under a lot of stress, usually it runs in the family. If there is a heart disease in one family, it usually runs in the family. Another factor, you're not exercising at all. You're eating lots of noodles and McDonald's. And your fat or your diet is very salty because salt increases blood pressure. Also, heart diseases are more common in males, so there is a genetic predisposition. Now, exercising, of course, it makes muscles stronger, and it will also make your heart muscle stronger. Like any muscle in the body, exercise makes your heart muscle stronger and increases something called the cardiac output. In other words, just one pump will release lots of blood and your heart will be nice and strong and it will improve circulation. As long as this is circled in red, then it definitely showed up in one of the questions. Now, this picture is important because it shows you that when you exercise, your muscles contract and this improves circulation. You always hear that when you exercise, circulation is improved. This is the reason why. These are the muscles and they're contracting. When they contract, they push the blood in your veins. This is a vein. How did I know that this is a vein? What are these?
Valves.
Valves, and valves are only found in veins. Exercise improves circulation. This is a fact because when you exercise, your muscles contract. See, this is a relaxed muscle. When the muscle is contracting, it will squeeze on the vein, pushing the blood forward, improving circulation. So exercise is very important for the heart. Advantages of exercise. This is an objective somewhere in the core or the supplement. And you need to know at least 4 points from this list. Exercise will prevent blocking of the arteries. It will prevent the formation of a thrombus. A thrombus is a blood clot. I don't want a blood clot to happen in my arteries. Like this. This is a thrombus. It will lower your blood pressure. It will lower the cholesterol. It will make you lose weight and it will lower fats. It will reduce the risk of atheroma. Atheroma is a blood clot due to fats because of eating too much McDonald's and noodles. It promotes weight loss. It avoids obesity. Exercise will lower stress. Exercise makes your heart muscles stronger and it will lower your pulse. Your heart will not be boom, boom, boom the whole time. Your heart will be relaxed because it's a strong muscle. One contraction will pump more blood than a weak heart. Okay, so you should exercise to avoid this. You have to exercise and eat healthy food, lots of fiber, lots of fruits, lots of vegetables. Avoid fats altogether, especially cholesterol, because if your arteries are blocked, God forbid, this is going to lead to a coronary heart disease. And the blocked arteries, they lose elasticity. They become less elastic. They cannot stretch when the blood is flowing through them. Okay? And we did that. The functions of the blood. This is core. The blood carries gases, and the blood protects you because it contains white blood cells. The blood contains platelets which help in the blood clots. Actually, one last thing, we mentioned all this red blood cells, they're produced in the bone marrow. You don't have to know the term erythropoiesis, it's too advanced. One last thing, which is hemorrhage is blood loss, which is the function of the blood plasma. Here, the liquid part of the blood. We talked about the solid part of the blood in detail. We talked about red blood cells and white blood cells and platelets. Now, the liquid part of the blood, it's liquid. It's mainly water. And a lot of things dissolve in this liquid part of the blood, which is known as the blood plasma. What are they? Glucose, amino acids, proteins like enzymes, vitamins, minerals, hormones, urea, water, carbon dioxide, these things are dissolved in the blood plasma. Okay. Blood clotting, we did it in detail. This is the mesh, and this was also a question. What is J? They will ask you to label. What is J?
Red blood cell.
Red blood cell. What is L? L is the
Mesh.
mesh. What is M? This large
White
irregular
blood
cell.
cell.
Red blood cell.
Excellent. This is an exam question. I promised I will let you go. Blood vessels, done, 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 done. Okay. Adaptation of capillaries, this was the question. I think we are done with that many, many times. Okay. Anyone has any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Ask, my dear.
Can carbohydrates increase cholesterol levels?
Cholesterol levels? Well, it increases fat levels. Why? Because when you eat too much carbohydrates and you don't burn it, the carbohydrates are stored as fat. They are converted to fat and stored. And when the fat increases above a certain level, it will accumulate in the inner lining of the arteries and cause heart disease. So everything you eat, if it is not burnt, it will change to fat. So yes, when you eat a lot of carbohydrates, it will be stored as fat and you will gain weight. Don't when you eat lots of chocolate, you gain weight. Why? Because the chocolate, you did not burn it in the gym. So it will be changed to fat and it will be stored.
Okay.
So the glucose or carbohydrates increase fat levels, not cholesterol. Cholesterol is another type of fat. But the carbohydrates, too much carbohydrates, even proteins, anything that you eat that has an energy value will be converted into fats if it is not used up in respiration. Okay? This is the question here showing you that you need to know the flow of blood inside the heart, because they ask you to describe and explain how the blood travels from the right ventricle to the lungs. And you have to write the, and we answered all these. Okay, I am now happy and satisfied, and I'm sure that nothing is missed. Anyone has any other question? Any question before I go? Okay. If you have any questions, send me. I want you to finish paper 2 and 4 plans, because tomorrow in class, we will start a new lesson, respiration, which is very easy. And we will solve paper 6 together. So get paper 6 classified with the mark scheme, and we will spend at least an hour solving paper 6 together on Sunday and Tuesday. So see you tomorrow.